The stagecoach stopped abruptly, and dust swirled around the wheels like a miniature tornado. Clara Amos clutched her worn bag and adjusted her brown dress, which clung uncomfortably to her voluptuous figure in the stifling Wyoming heat. Through the dirty window she could see Redstone spread out before her, a group of dilapidated buildings that looked withered under the scorching sun. "Last stop, miss," shouted the driver, his voice hoarse from the desert air. Clara's trembling fingers pulled a crumpled envelope from her purse. It had been read so many times that the paper was now soft as cloth. It was the last letter from James, received 3 weeks ago, promising to meet her at the station. "My dear Clara," it began, "when you read this, I will be counting the hours until I can hold you in my arms. Your beauty shines through every word you write, and I know that together we will build a life more golden than any nugget I have ever found in these mountains." These words sustained her during the endless journey from Cheyenne, during her father's stern warnings that you can't trust strangers, and during the cruel whispers of the townspeople who had long since declared her unmarriageable. Sheriff Amos was blunt. "Clara, you're chasing a shadow. No man would walk away from his own wedding without a reason." But Clara wouldn't listen. James's letters had been her lifeline for a year, each one more passionate than the last. He saw in her what no one else did: value, beauty, a future full of adventure. She couldn't give up that hope now. The station was empty except for a mangy dog sleeping in the shadows. Clara approached the ticket clerk, a bony man with suspicious eyes. "Excuse me, sir, I'm looking for James Whitmore. He was supposed to meet me here." The man scratched his gray beard. "Whitmore? The gold prospector? I haven't seen him in almost a week. I heard he left Mrs. Henderson's boarding house in a hurry." Clara's heart sank. "Left? But we're supposed to get married." "Lady, I'm just selling tickets. Try the Silver Dollar Saloon. Mabel knows everyone in this town." The Silver Dollar sat at the end of Main Street like a tired old woman with slanted doors. Piano music drifted out, mingling with loud laughter and the clinking of glasses. Clara had never been in a saloon before, but desperation drove her inside. The room was thick with smoke and smelled of whiskey. Cowboys sprawled across tables, watching her with unwelcome interest. She heard someone mutter something under his breath. Clara turned and saw a woman of about 50, with gray hair combed back tightly and a dark dress that made it clear she was the proprietress. This must be Mabel. "I'm looking for James Whitmore," Clara said, barely audible above the noise. Mabel's expression softened slightly. "You must be the bride he's been talking about. Let's go somewhere quieter to talk." They moved to a small office behind the bar. Mabel poured herself a whiskey and looked intently at Clara. "James left town 3 days ago," she said bluntly. "He left in the middle of the night with some woman. A redhead, in an expensive dress. She looked suspicious." The words hit Clara like a physical blow. "That's impossible. He loves me. We're engaged." "Darling, men like James Whitmore don't love women like you." Mabel's voice was sharp, but not cruel. "He's mixed in with the wrong crowd. They say he owes money to the wrong people." Clara's hands trembled as she took out James's letters. "But he wrote to me. Look at these words." Mabel barely glanced at the pages. "Pretty words don't pay debts, girl. My advice? Get on the next stagecoach and go back where you came from." "I can't?" Clara was surprised by her own determination. "I won't leave without finding out the truth." Mabel looked at her for a long time. "Do you have any money?" "A little. I need a waitress. The pay is low, but it includes a room upstairs. You can stay until you figure things out, but don't expect miracles." The next morning, Clara put on a simple black dress and a white apron and tied her hair with trembling fingers. It was quieter in the saloon during the day, but she still felt eyes on her as she served coffee and cleared tables. The cowboys' comments followed her like shadows. "Big girl for a small town," and "she could probably eat a man for dinner." Each cruel word was like a knife to her heart, but Clara forced herself to continue. She had nowhere else to go, and James's secret demanded an answer. On the third day, she overheard two men discussing a train robbery planned for the following week. They mentioned someone named Whitmore who had chickened out and run off with the boss's girl. A cold shiver ran down Clara's spine. That evening, she approached Mabel. "I need to learn how to ride a horse." Mabel raised an eyebrow. "Why?" "If James is involved with criminals, I have to find him before he gets killed." "Girl, you're out of your mind. Have you ever even held a gun?" Clara lifted her chin with new determination. "My father is Sheriff Amos from Cheyenne. I know how to handle his spare revolver." Something in Clara's tone must have convinced Mabel, because the older woman slowly nodded. "There's a young deputy sheriff here, Tom Bradley. He lost his parents in an Indian raid last year. He helps me with troublemakers. Maybe he can teach you how to ride." Tom Bradley was unlike any man Clara had ever known. Quiet and thoughtful, with kind eyes that looked at her without judgment, he agreed to help without question. Under his patient guidance, Clara learned to mount a horse despite her height, hold the reins confidently, and stay in the saddle without falling. "You're braver than most men I know," Tom said one evening as they practiced in the corral behind the saloon. "Taking on such a mysterious task." Clara felt her cheeks flush. "I'm not brave. I can't give up hope that James's love was real." "Perhaps," Tom said gently, "but even if it wasn't, that doesn't mean you're not worthy of love." Those words stayed with her as she continued her investigation. She discovered that James was indeed connected to a gang planning to rob the Union Pacific. The mysterious woman was Isabella Crane, the sister of the gang's leader, who had seduced James and made him betray his partners. When the gang discovered his betrayal, James fled with Isabella and hid the gold. Clara got her last clue from an unexpected source. Old Pete, the town drunk, who had seen James and Isabella heading toward the abandoned Copper Creek mine. Armed with her father's revolver and riding Tom's calmest mare, Clara set out at dawn. The mine was a skeleton of rotten beams and rusty equipment. Clara found James's body at the bottom of the mine with a bullet hole in his back. Nearby, she found Isabella's corpse and the stolen gold, as well as a letter James had written before his death. "My dear Clara," the letter began, "if you are reading this, it means that my sins have caught up with me. I loved you truly, but my greed destroyed that love. I am not the man you deserve, but I pray that you will find someone who is worthy of you. You are more precious to me than gold, more precious than any treasure I have ever sought. Forgive me." Clara wept over the letter, not only because of James' death, but because of what he could have been. When she returned to town, Tom was waiting for her with the sheriff's deputies. The case was closed, the gold was returned, and Clara finally had answers to all her questions. "What are you going to do now?" Tom asked as they stood outside the Silver Dollar. Clara looked at James's last letter, then at the town that had become her unexpected home. "I think I'll stay for a while. Mabel says the Silver Dollar needs a permanent manager, and I've grown to love this place." Tom smiled. "Even with all the cruel remarks?" "Those people don't determine my worth," Clara said, surprising herself with the strength of her voice. "I do." As the sun set over Redstone, painting the dusty street in golden hues, Clara realized that her journey had not led her to the love she had expected, but to something far more valuable. The realization that she was enough, just as she was. And in Tom's admiring gaze, she sensed the possibility of a completely different kind of love, built not on pretty words, but on mutual respect and shared courage. The piano in the Silver Dollar began its evening song, and Clara walked toward it with her head held high, no longer the shy girl who had stepped off the stagecoach, but a woman who had found her strength in the dusty heart of Wyoming.